Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be using the IOD Lattice Rose Inlay, and I will be using it on 3 different color paints. So my first project is just a little shelf sitter. And so this is just probably one of those little signs you can get at Dollar Tree. So I started out by painting it with Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. And now I'm going back with the second coat of paint. So when you put a paint inlay down, go ahead and put the first coat down. And on the second coat, you're going to make it thick enough, but not too thick. And then before it even begins to set up, lay that paint inlay right onto it and just gently push it down. And then you're going to be misting it until it's wet. And if you see any water that's puddled up, make sure to dry that off. You let it sit for about an hour and you mist it again. And then you let it sit for 60 seconds. And then very carefully and slowly pull off that paint inlay. And it's beautiful. And I just always love the way these turn out. So the mold today that I'm using is actually Azuri mold, which is typically what I find on Etsy. And I will try to find it and link it in the description box below. But basically, it's a mold of a little hummingbird that's just sticking his little beak into a flower, getting the nectar. And I use this one in particular because my granddaughters love to sit on the front porch, on the porch swing, and watch the hummingbirds come up to our hummingbird feeder. And so these little pieces today kind of mimic the kind of things that she would like. So I push that air dry clay into that mold after putting cornstarch in. And then no matter what name brand mold I use, I always smooth it over on the back with a credit card just to make it super smooth. And because it's really big, then I just use this little, I believe it's called a bench scraper. And so that helps me pick up this larger mold. And I use Tite Bond Thick and Quick to put it on the back because it holds really tight and really quick. And then I'll just flip it over and just put it just about in the center of this little piece of wood. And then after it's set up for about 10 or 15 minutes, then I like to go ahead and paint them. And this is actually Rust-Oleum Blush Pink. And so I'm going to go ahead and paint the entire mold. And then I'm going to go around the edges of this little sign. And I'll be painting that, just the outside edges of this sign, pink as well. Now recently someone asked me why I use different name brand paints. Rust-Oleum, I use those paints because I use their basic colors. And then most of the time I use Dixie Belle for those accent colors. But I've also been known to use Paint Couture and Fusion. It just kind of depends on the colors that they have and, whether I want those particular colors. So after this mold has set up for probably a couple days, now I go back with some Dixie Belle white wax. And I put it all over this little hummingbird. And I make sure to put it in a little bit thicker where all the details are. Just because I want that white wax to kind of accent those details. And then I let it sit for just a little bit. And then I take like a little shop towel and I wipe it back. And I wipe a little bit harder over the smooth parts and then not as much on the other. So if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel and become part of our family. Okay, the next piece that goes along with it, because I'm going to wait till the end to show you all the pieces. This is just a little girly girl shelf that I thrifted. And I'm painting the entire shelf with the Rust-Oleum Blush Pink. And on the back side of this little bookshelf, it's got the little beadboard, or what it appears to look like beadboard. And I will paint even the inside of the little shelf as well because it will be sitting up on the wall and you could see up underneath it. So this time, this is the same pieces of paint inlay that have kind of set off and dried, and now I'm going to use them for the second time. But this time, I just cut out the little flowers. And so I had just enough to every other little slat. I put one longer piece of the paint inlay, and then on the pieces of the slat in between, I just put a little piece. And you're going to see a totally different effect, because when you use a paint inlay, just like you did before, you use the same process. The second time you use that paint inlay, the colors are not going to come out quite so vivid, but what I really like about it is that it begins to look a little bit more vintage. And that's the effect that I was going on this little bookshelf. I don't want those designs to be very vivid. I want them to just kind of fade into the background, because everything that I'm going to be putting on top of the shelf is going to be more what I want people to be drawn to. And I just use the same technique. And because these are little pieces, I just use a little toothpick to kind of pull it up. And then this bookshelf came with 3 little hooks, and I spray painted those with Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, just to kind of be more in line with the pink because of the color they were before. And I just screw them in, and I have a beautiful little shelf that will go along with all of the pieces for today. So the next piece is a little trinket box. Well, this time I'm using a Dixie Belle green color that's pretty bright green, and it's called Farmhouse Green. And I'm only going to put the paint inlay on 2 sides of the little trinket box, and then I will, on the little ends, I'm only going to paint those green. Now this is a new piece of the paint inlay. This is the first use of it, but I wanted you to see how a paint inlay looks different on different colors. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and paint the lid of this little trinket box with just the farmhouse green. So once again, it's been sitting there for an hour. It's dry and I missed it. And then I'll let it sit there for 60 seconds. And then I pull it off really slowly. And you just see how the magic of that paint inlay merges with the paint on your piece. And it's just such a lovely effect. And then I wanted to just put a little extra accent. So I used one of my molds that I already made up out of resin with the Conservatory labels. And then I'm just going to use another little strip of those flowers from that paint inlay. And I'm just going to put that right on that little label. And this little label, I painted it the same color pink as I did before, just because I wanted the pinks and the greens to go really well together. And then I just glue it on. And then the little knob for the box, I spray paint that with the Rust-Oleum blush pink as well. And because this is just a little teeny piece of paint inlay, I just used that little toothpick to kind of start pulling it up. Now, my last piece today is just a little teeny metal bird cage that I thrifted. And at the time, I couldn't find my spray paint can of the blush pink. So I actually painted it the first time. And then I found that can, and so I went back and I made it look a little bit more smooth. And then it had some little teeny floral designs all around that bird cage. And so I painted those with the green. And then I made some little green dots down on that little bottom rim. And it has like a little hook on it, but it's just real tiny. And so I'm going to be setting that on the shelf with a little bird in between. So friends, this is a very short video for me, but it is also the week of the 4th. And so I wanted you to see some very simple and easy projects that you can make. But I also wanted you to see how beautiful the paint inlay can be on so many color backgrounds. So in the comments below, tell me, what is your favorite piece today? And also, have you tried any of the paint inlays? They are so much fun to use. But I hope I have inspired you today to not only use bigger pieces of the paint inlay, but you can use those little paint inlays on all sorts of little pieces. It doesn't always have to be big. And also, I want you to let me know, what are you doing for the 4th of July? Of course, if you live in the United States. I'm excited to be spending that time with my family and friends. So thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to my channel. And I want to wish you a happy 4th of July, as not only we celebrate the freedom that we enjoy by living in the United States, but the freedom that we have in Christ Jesus. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Thank you, friends.